ready to get showcased.
Welcome to the Showcase Pod. We are live New Year's Day, Part 2, with the Boston bad boy, Jason Rumble. Live in the studio with Bionic One, Dan Badandi. Missing in the studio, missing in the snow, Don Vega. But on the line is the Boston bad boy, Jason Rumble.
How we doing, Chris?
All is good.
So, you know, it's funny what we were talking about off the air. I believe this match in its all entirety is 9 minutes and some odd seconds. And some of this I do remember, like towards the end, I remember it getting very chaotic. And like I said, Joel Davis, he paid me $50 so he could beat you.
Well, that's going to go into some questions on that one. That's funny, right? Did you ever...
I forgot to tell you before the match, I'd split it with you.
All right, it's only 25 years later. Did you ever hear the story when Joel was wrestling Nicholas Knight for me at the same venue? Joel put a newspaper ad in the Taunton Gazette that he was wrestling in the main event for the heavyweight championship.
No, but it does not cease to amaze me.
Yeah.
Joel has done many of things over my years of knowing him. I can remember doing a couple of different autograph signings per se at card stores, and he'd be like, "Jay, the Miyazaki's are gonna come out. They're gonna pack the place." Meanwhile, we'd be at this card store, and 3 people would come out, and 2 of them were Joel's family members.
Was that when he had the card shop downtown?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never knew who was coming through those doors.
Absolutely not. You just never knew. Joel is without a doubt one of the, if I have to say, if this was a story of my life, and it is a story of my wrestling life, Joel is definitely a main character of more like a comedic thing. And it's funny that we were talking about this off air, that now he's a comedian, which does not cease to amaze me. Not that he was a funny guy or anything, but just being around Joel and some of the things he pulled. And, I'm sure you've heard of the time up in, all the boys were up in upstate New York. It was a Tony Rumble show, and Public Enemy was on it, and there was a fight outside the bar, and Trooper and Joel would throw work punches and work kicks at this bar fight.
Now, I remember the story that he told me, that Roadblock came in, threw everybody, cleared the bar, and Trooper Gilmore was throwing work kicks and punches. He didn't say he was.
Okay, so I was told by people that were there, and one of them is the legendary Bull Montana, and Bull Montana would never lie to me. He was like, Joel and Trooper were throwing work punches and work kicks, fucking box,
I gotta love Bull. Bull is a we could have Bull Montana stories. That could be another segment if we had guys calling on Bull.
Okay, so there's tons of Bull Montana stories. The way that Bull started hanging with me was 2 days later after. Oh, it was probably maybe not 2 days. I'm probably exaggerating. Probably a month or 2 later. A gym I worked at, plus I worked out there, was called Mike's Fitness, Mike's Gym in Medford, Massachusetts. And I forget where I was. I was home, and I had yet to go in. And my boss calls me, and he's like, my boss worked at Oh, not the Channel, but it was one of the bars where we ended up doing a NWA New England show in Boston. I forget the name of it. It'll probably come back to me by the time I'm done doing this podcast. But evidently he was a bouncer at this bar. This was one of the bars that Bull would go to and try and get money to do bar back in or throw out trash or whatnot. And he's like, Jason, he goes, there's a guy down here looking for you, Ringo. And I'm like, who the hell is Ringo? You know, I'm thinking, I go, I don't know no Ringo. And I could hear Bull's voice go, tell him it's Bull, you fucking idiot. He don't know me as Ringo. So this guy not only knew him from going to his bar, but evidently where Bull had grown up in Revere, Massachusetts, there was a YMCA. Excuse me for that. Bull grew up a huge Beatles fan. And Bull looked like an overweight Ringo Starr. He would always be playing the air drums, you know, the air guitar, but Bull played the air drums. And that's how Bull got the name Ringo. And that's, you know, it was synonymous with them. So if you didn't know him as Bull, you knew who Ringo was. So I'm thinking to myself, how the hell does Bull know about that? And I forgot, you know, a bunch of times he asked me, I'm going to come and work out here someday. And I'm thinking, work out? What are we going to go to a Chinese buffet and have an eating contest? Because Bull was legendary with pounding the crab ragout kid. And so, yeah, I mean, Bull came down. He was more like my coach. You know, I'm on the row machine. He's like, go, kid, go. He's like, 9, 10, come on, 4 more. You know, I got all these people staring at me. And Bull proceeded to stay at my house for the next week. Like, it was, yeah. He lynched onto me as soon as, like, a week or two, maybe even, like, yeah, it wasn't much longer after Tony passed and Bull became my buddy. You know, many other stories. His mother would call me and tell me that don't let Ringo eat this, that, or the other. He had a hole in his mattress where he would hide pepperoni sticks and like junk food that he could eat because Bull was overweight. He wasn't supposed to be eating that stuff, you know. And yeah, Bull Montana, one of the funniest guys, a legend. And if you ever went out to eat with him, he would always say he had no money. And you would feel bad, and you would end up paying for him. I got some questions that we forgot. But okay, cool.
It all starts with the NWA. So when you took over the reins for Tony,
yep,
right? You were in the business about 3 years, maybe.
Oh, buddy, we started in '97. He passed away in '99.
Yeah,
I took over promoting. March, couldn't have been March, maybe April, if anything, of 2000.
How was that transition for you between the boys, learning the booking, learning the business? Wow,
that's an awesome question. I don't think I've really ever been asked with that about that. So I think it was more or less that was on my mind was I didn't want to see this go down. You know what I mean? Even though I was building a good little thing for myself, not just only on the New England Indies, but as I told you before last week, Tony was getting me booked in Florida with a guy named Bill Brown, and from Florida Championship Wrestling. Then I got a connection with Rusty Brooks, who was out of Fort Lauderdale. They got me a connection where I was working. Oh, I forget the dude's name, but he, as we would put it nowadays, he was like a dollar store Sabu. and I would work his promotion. So I was working 3, 4 different promotions, and in all honesty, I mean, I really didn't need to do it, but I felt I I just had this feeling, man, that I was being, I couldn't let people down, and I've always been like, if people who really know me know I'm not about myself. They know I can't, I'm not gonna say generous, but I think of my friends, and not only my friends, but I just think of people, and I just couldn't let it go. I couldn't let it go by, because NWA New England, to me, and working for Tony Rumble at that point in time, was probably the best thing in the world to me. And I guess a lot of us that were around it were still not believing that Tony really had passed. And I knowing the ties that Tony had too. So like Paul Heyman would call him, and Kevin Sullivan was his buddy. Knowing that me, Wagner, and Lewis were basically booked with WCW back-to-back nights. Their second time they were coming to Boston, and then to Worcester, because they had those two. They had Monday Nitro, and then they had, what was it, Thunder or something like that.
Yeah.
And we knew the matches. Like, I was booked to go against Rey Mysterio the second night, and that was a Thunder match. And Kevin Sullivan loved us. And what had happened was their second time through, the ticket sales weren't going, and it was basically almost right at the time where WCW was going to go under, you know what I mean? And I think that me taking that seat, it wasn't really the fact of, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be the heir to Tony Rumble's throne, so to speak, because he was one of the most respected promoters in New England. People from a lot of places wanted to work for him. He had tons of connections in the business. I had an ins with one of the girls from PWI, one of the head magazine person. So anytime I wanted to call and get stuff in there and whatnot, it was a no-brainer. And to be quite honest with you, the booking part really wasn't all that hard, because there was tons of people who already wanted to work for me. I think it was more or less the hardest part was knowing that there was no bank account that came with NWA New England. Tony ran this all off of, he would get paid shows, and then he would gamble the money from the paid shows and try and do, Good Time Emporium. And, many of people know, who know me, I had my hands on extracurricular activities outside the wrestling business that were illegal businesses, and we'll just keep it at that. And if you want to say that I was washing my money that way by losing in professional wrestling, we'll just put it that way. It was more or less fine, and it was even at the end of the rainbow, not being it like a lot of people who know, if the hoods were on right now, they would Rumble paid and weed, and that was the truth. A lot of people who work for me like to smoke the 420, and if you hand them a $25 bag or a $50 bag, they looked at it this way. It was money that wasn't, money they didn't have to spend, so to speak. And if I was able to give people cash at the end of the rainbow, I could do it. If I didn't have people like Dan Bidondi, Vertebraker, TJ Richter, and guys like that who basically put their lives and time on the line for me for no money, just for the simple fact of me giving them a respectable match and giving them leeway and letting them do, kind of what they wanted to do, man. But I had trust that they weren't going to go out there and put on a knucklehead match. They gave me their all-out effort. They did the very best for me. They looked for shows for me to get. So I mean, the booking part, really, honestly, it wasn't that hard.
Yeah, I loved
I
working
know-
for you, man. That was one of the best promotions ever I worked for with you guys. And we used to do the TV tapings, and I did double gimmicks with you. And yeah, it was you always are the one of the nicest promoters ever. Because you know how it is in the business. You and Chris, you guys are amazing. That's why I told you if you ever run again, count me in, man. And yeah, I enjoyed working for you.
I appreciate that, Dan, and I very much appreciate you putting your life and time on the line for me, man. I can't tell you, without people like you guys, NWA New England would have never existed for more than the couple of shows I was trying to run. And that's why I was lucky, I was very lucky to have great people and people who knew the Tony Rumble name that still wanted to come and work for me. And a lot of people really believed I was Tony's son, you know what I mean? So that made it even easier that people believed. I was probably more believable than Santa Claus.
How'd you get the nod, or what was the negotiation for you to get the NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship?
All right, so there's a guy named Bill Behrens, a guy named Howard Brody. During my first run, they seen how I like to travel. And one of the things that they were having trouble with was the under championships, other than the World Heavyweight Champion, was traveling. So the junior heavyweight title, the United States title, or whatever, even the tag team titles, they would stay stagnant to their area. The guys wouldn't go nowhere with it, and I just happened to be a decent, I happen to be a decent worker, and that just happened to work in my favor, and I happen to own an NWA franchise, and I had votes, so I believe I think a little bit had to do with every category that I just had. One would be my voting power to put the right people in the right place at the right time. Two would be that I was a decent worker, and three, that I traveled to get out there with the belt. I was the first guy in years when I took that belt to take it outside Florida and Georgia. I took that thing to 9 different states in that first 10-month run I had. I was in West Virginia, I was in Corpus Christi, Texas. I was in Alabama, Mississippi. I went to all those other NWAs and took money out of my own pocket. I put more into getting me to those shows than me getting paid.
So tell people the process of that, because I don't think people understand that. A lot of people think, when they think of the NWA territories, they think of Flair going from territory to territory, getting flown out, doing a stint, in the area for a week. Now you have what was it? 2000 is the first time.
Yep.
The year is 2000. NWA is totally different. So tell us about your week, how you got the bookings, everything on that, because I don't think people understand that.
I had a list of all the promoters I knew who liked me, and there was another guy named Awesome Oppen, and his name is Richard Oppen. Richard died a little over a year ago of cancer. One of the best things I got to do for him while he was theoretically on his deathbed, but he wasn't on his deathbed, is I live up here in Maine. I come from a huge fishing community where I can get I can get lobsters and scallops and clams at the snap of a finger. So I talked to one of the kids I coached fathers at a football practice, and I explained the story that I had a buddy who was from West Virginia. He's dying of cancer, and one of his last meals that he would love to have is some fresh Maine lobster. And he's like, all right. He goes, as long as you pay for the shipping and handling, I'll get the boxes, I'll do all this. So my wife works at a medical office, so they get all types of things delivered to their office, and one of them is that ice that the the freeze bags that like they legit last for like 3 days when you put them in the freezer, and they got those like these styrofoam coolers that like they're like almost as hard as a rock. Like it's hard to believe these are styrofoam. So I got the lobsters, wrapped them in seaweed, put them in this box, and 3 day mail to mail them was like almost $200. 2 day mail because they can last about 3 to 4 days in the box. Wrap them in wet paper towels, seaweed, and then you put the frozen ice packs on top. So anyways, it costed about $200. I mailed in the lobsters, and Richard Oppen was another guy, very influential. Him, Bill Behrens, Howard Brody, God rest his soul, another one that's passed on. And I'm forgetting one other guy's name. He was influential with starting up TNA. And he's another guy that got me booked in there. But anyways, I got these lists when they found out I got the title. I had said, listen, just as long as I get money when I'm there, I understand you probably can't afford to get me there. Just a decent payday and a place to lay my head for the night. Maybe even the meal would be awesome. You know what I mean? And it was always that. I'd go out. One of my first times was going back down to Florida for Howard Brody. Howard flew me in on Southwest Airlines, and I flew through Rhode Island, landed back in Rhode Island, and it was only $127 round trip. He paid for the ticket, and he put me up with this dude named Crazy Chris Nelson, and Chris was one half of the new Heavenly Bodies. They were about to become the tag team champions, and he put me up with Chris, and I got to wrestle in that famous I'm having a mind fart, but the famous armory that Gordon Soley, they used to do Florida Championship Wrestling back in the day from that place. And
Yep.
I went into the room where I got to put my autograph on the inside of the room where the late, great Gordon Soley had announced tons of matches. Dusty Rhodes put the NWA World Heavyweight Championship up for grabs there. Like, this place was famous. So then from there, people seen that I was willing to, travel. I went to Tennessee a few different times for Burt Prentice. I went to NWA Mississippi. I forget that promoter's name. But I drove to these places. I legit, at the time, I owned a landscaping company. And I like I said, I had extracurricular activities that I was doing outside of the business. And I just took that money, man. Because there was one person who made it all make sense to me was taking a seminar, my first seminar with Al Snow. And he said, you work your day job to support your weekend habit. And that resonated with me. That really resonated with me. And another thing, I was very business smart. I wanted to, I've always been a businessman, no matter what, if it was an illegal business or a legal business. I've always been a businessman. And another thing that always resonated was, in order to make money, you need to spend money. Well, I would take those aspects of it, and that's how I would get myself booked in all areas. I went up for Jim Miller in Pennsylvania because I wanted to be on shows, and what I started doing was I took another, point of view from, Stevie Carino, who was the world champion at the time. And Steve goes, just start going to every show that I'm on. and I will get, and even if you're not booked, I will get you on the show with the payday. And if you need a room to stay, I'll let you stay in my room. He goes, because every room has 2 beds. So I started following Steve Carino everywhere he went. Yep, and that's how I got on shows too. So I basically force-fed myself. I force-feeded people to book me to a certain extent. Because the show would look awesome. You got the world heavyweight champion on it. You got the United States tag team champions on it. You got the world junior heavyweight champion on it. You know, and yeah, I took money out of my own pocket to do these things, and hoping that a promoter would give me $100, $200, room to stay, you know. And maybe throw a meal my way, you know.
Did you have a formula when you went there? Was there anything that you had to do?
What do you mean, like formula? Like I had to do? Just if you wouldn't mind.
Was there like, okay, you got to go there, you got to make the local town look pretty good?
Always, man, always. If I listen. There was 99.9% of the time I went there to make their guy look good, but they knew that they weren't going to actually come out on top. You know, a lot of times, like, I had the advantage of being a heel. So being a heel necessarily didn't mean I had to win. A lot of times I would get myself disqualified. Ric Flair finish, you know what I mean? Let that dude look good for the night. You know, get caught with the chair, get caught with a foreign object and put it down my trunks, punch the referee in the face. You know, I would come up with just certain ways. You know, so at least the baby face from that town went out looking good that night. I hardly ever had to lay their shoulders down or me lay my shoulders down, unless I was losing the belt to somebody.
How many reigns did you have?
3.
You had 3 of them, and how did the timelines change each time you had it?
So my first time, it happened to be that Richard Oppen was at the time. It was probably, I had the belt for a little over 1 year. TNA was just starting their stuff. And they were doing the weekly pay-per-views that you would pay to watch their television. I think it was $5 an episode. And Richard was like, listen, I got this kid, Rocky Reynolds, out of Titusville, Pennsylvania. I think you and him would mesh really well together, and you know, you and him work each other a couple times, and I want you to put him over and give him a shot at the title. And he goes, the thing is I don't want him to have it for a while because you travel, and we want the traveling to continue. So if anything, he'll hold the thing for 4 months. Maybe 5 months. I go, well, here's the deal. How's this? I go, I'll go down. I'll put him over into his hometown, and I'll pay for him to come back to my town in 6 months. And it was 2 weeks before my birthday. It was it was either 2 weeks before my birthday or 2 weeks after my birthday. I go, I'm having a super show at a building at the Dan wrestled in this club, the Italian American Citizens Club, where the table broke and the lady thought that she got burned and tried to sue us.
Yeah,
Okay, so it was that building, and I told him that I'm going to have the NWA Tag Team Champions. I'm going to have the new Heavenly Bodies coming up for me. So it'll be like a super show where we'll have world titles defended on. He was like, oh, that sounds awesome. Plus, man, who gets to say that they won a world championship in their hometown, in a building where I went to family events? And for years, it was the building that was used for ward. The ward counselor would utilize that for our Halloween parties. And, like, it was just a very special building. It was legit 8 streets down from the street I grew up on. Family members were members of the Italian American Citizens Club. Like, it just, to me, it had so much nostalgia. It was just like a no-brainer. So, and I didn't want to be like a spoiled sport. I had already had the belt for a year and 3 months. Like, if there's a YouTube thing, on YouTube, it'll tell you all the World Junior Heavyweight Championships, and the reigns are pretty much spot on to from when you had it to when you didn't have it. I think I had like the second longest reign in NWA Junior Heavyweight title history. So that's how I got it back the second time. And then third time was probably a couple years later, and I forget the person who had it, but the match was against Mr. 450 or whatever he was called. He worked in...
what was that? Jarrell? I want to say Jarrell
yes,
Clark?
Jarrell Clark,
yeah.
Yes. It was me and him in a three-way, and we drove all the way to Winnipeg. It was myself, Gino Montino, and Quentin Michaels. And let me tell you, that was one of the coldest ever rides. Quentin's like, don't worry, we'll drive there, we'll drive. I was like, all right, man, we'll drive, you're driving. And Quentin had a caravan. So we're driving, we're finally in Canada, and there's a certain part of Canada they call the tundra. And when I tell you, we were wrapped in blankets with the heat blasted at high, and it was still cold enough to house penguins, okay? It was that cold out. So we see this car whip by us, and it's one of their, like, state policemen. He bangs a Huey because he probably spotted the Massachusetts plates. And he turns around and comes, pulls us over, and it wasn't for anything bad. He's like, what are you guys doing up here? And we're like, oh, we're headed to Winnipeg for the NWA convention. We're wrestlers. He's like, boys, you guys are crazy. He's like, oh, I just want to tell you, you got to pay attention on this road. And just be careful, because I don't want to be looking at ghosts on the way back. And we're like, no problem, sir. We understand. Thank you very much. And he led us on our way. But that was probably one of the coldest, furthest rides I ever made. And Larry Huntley was on the show as well. Larry was smart enough. Larry flew out. And Larry had points on his air mileage card. So Larry met us. It was myself, Larry Huntley, Quentin Michaels, and Gino Montino. And Gino put me over big time because Gino was doing that strongman gimmick, and it was one of the shows where they got a 15-foot step ladder, and Gino did his extreme strongman gimmick for everybody at the convention the first night, breaking cinder blocks with his head, taking nails and smacking them into 2x4s, and then the best was Quentin dropping a bowling ball from a 15-foot step ladder with Gino sitting on a chair. So that was like a 10-foot drop, no lie, and Gino just growls after. So they thought, like, everybody there thought just because I was from Boston, I had a long Italian last name, and knowing Tony, they knew what Tony did. Like, they knew Tony was a money collector, and Tony did this. So they did, and a lot of these people, like I said, they thought I was Tony's son. Okay? So when they seen Gino, nobody wanted to mess with me. They're like, that's his leg breaker. So everybody thought I was a Maine Mafia person, for real. I kid you not. after they had seen Gino Martino, they're like, nobody messed with me. If I opened my mouth and said something, I got it. I never bided to get championships. I got championships because they felt I was a good wrestler. They seen that I liked to travel, and I was willing not to bust promoters' balls to squeeze them over the barrel and say, you gotta pay me for this, you gotta pay me for that, blah, blah, blah. I got myself out there. I did what I felt was best for the business. That's why sometimes I haven't been around the business since the pandemic. And I do hear of some of these kids nowadays that they're entitled, they need to get paid and this, that, and the other thing. And it's like, parts of me, like I said before, I miss more or less going into locker rooms and shooting the breeze with the boys. You know what I mean? And nowadays, hearing some of this stuff, I probably would have a hard time listening to some of these younger kids and their theoretics on what they deserve. Knowing that I've seen people that didn't get to work for 3 to 4 years that would show up to every show imaginable to man, put chairs up, put rings up, sell hot dogs, do music, grab ring jackets, put up posters, pick people up, drop people off, and paying your dues, I hear, is a thing of the past, that they would it's because it's an entitled world that we live in now. I know that I'm jumping off my topic.
No. I mean, we still do it that way, and we do get pushback and resentment and attitudes, and we get the little circles of, hey, why are we doing this? We've been around, fill in the blank. We're better than this. We don't need this. And yeah, it is different. I'm not sure when it changed or who changed it. But yeah, we're fighting that feeling, to say the least, because I know in our locker room, in our training center, we have a good average of about 15 guys who train at our place.
I hear you guys got Kenny Dykstra as one of your trainers, man. Yep. Kenny. I love Kenny to death. I love that kid to death. What a prodigy he was, and to hear that he's giving back into the business. He's one of the kids that never ever put his hand. His mother would drive him to the shows for me, and he would never ask for money. He would shake my hand and say, "Thank you, Mr. Rumble, for letting me have a great match. I appreciate everything you do for me." Never asked me, and never, ever. I'm handing him money, but if there wasn't money and I didn't hand him and all I did was hand him a handshake, he had nothing but good things to say to me. I don't think that, I'm hearing that is basically long and gone.
Yeah, it's a lot of repeat, where I don't think Tony would have repeated himself, Walter wouldn't repeat himself, which actually, this goes to a funny story. At one time, you were running a school, Wagner was running a school, I was running a school, Mike King was running a school. That was kind of weird when we look back at it, that almost everybody in our class had a school by accident, because it's not like we reached out and said, hey, by the way, Jay, I think it would be a great idea to run a wrestling school 2 doors down from the old WrestlePlex.
Yep. There's lots of memories in that 2 doors down too.
Yeah, I mean, a funny story on that one. When I got the address, and I'm driving there, and I'm like, there is no way that this is the WrestlePlex. I'm like, talk about a small world, right?
Yep.
And I pull in the park lot, and I'm walking, and the WrestlePlex, I believe, was probably like 122, maybe.
It was one. So there was the Wiener joint, and There was when the wiener joint was on the end of the building, then it was the sports store, and then it was us.
Yeah. So on that, it was just weird because was Powerhouse Jim there at the time?
Absolutely. I used to love going over there. That guy would let me work out for free.
Yep. So the guy who owned Powerhouse Gym split that building. The guy was Jeff.
Yep.
And he split the building because it looks like he was getting ready to sell it.
Yep.
So we rented out that spot. I mean, it was just small. I'm like, there's no way with the history of coming by. So every time I walk by there, and that guy who had that place after you guys just closed it probably like 6 months ago.
TJ Richter left a ring down there that we never got out. And I always wondered what that guy did with it. Because they made a storage facility out of that place, I believe.
Yeah, where NWA New England was, it turned into a clothing place. It was like urban.
Oh, a clothing place. I could have sworn at first the guy. Okay, so there was an old rich dude that owned the place when me and Trooper first rented it, and then he came to us, me and Trooper, and said the guy who's buying this owns a moving company, and he wants to turn your store into his personal storage for his moving company, and you guys are always late with your rent and yada yada yada. But I don't want to do this to you guys because I really like you guys. It's never that you don't pay me. It's just you guys pay me late.
Yeah.
And it's the wrestling business, man. I was dependent on kids to give you know how it is.
Yeah.
You dependent on people to give you money, and at the time, like, I was more friendly. It was so even though TJ Richter, for instance, used to work him and Verdi would work every show for free there because I would give them the WrestlePlex, as we called it. They got it once a month. They would get it for free to run one of their shows.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And they'd be like, you don't want any of the game. I wouldn't even show up. I'd be like, you guys can sell whatever food you want, do whatever you want. It's yours because you do this for me, But, yeah, to get back to the NWA thing, it was just more or less me trying to get it out there because I knew I was a business. And like I said, I repeat it. Like I said last week, my goal wasn't just to be a weekend guy, an indie guy. I think it was, and the reasoning behind that too is also when you're doing some of these shows for Tony Rumble in 98 and 99 and you're talking to Jim Cornette, you're talking to Jim Ross, you're talking to Kevin Kelly, and these guys are all talent scouts for WWE, and the attitude Walter gave you. When you walked in the door, Walter told you to always believe that you were better than everybody else. It was a totally different mindset. Like, it was a different mindset. And I took that mindset to heart. And I also took that mindset to heart because I worked out in the gym 5 days a week. I did performance enhancing drugs to make myself look the way I did. I killed myself on certain relationships I had with families, girls, my friends, missing tons of stuff with like outings with my friends, weekends with people I grew up with, because in the ultimate goal, I wanted to be in the WWE, man. I felt that I had the look. I felt I was doing everything they were looking for, which was another thing. I was spending my money on what I wanted to be. And that was, like I said, Al Snow and certain things that you just bring into general business in life. You need to spend money to make money. Businesses don't make money until 2 to 3 to 5 years into business. You support your habit, but you support your habit by your work habit. Like, just all those things were in my brain. If if that makes any sense.
How close were you to get that next step?
All right. I think I was more closer to signing with TNA than ever with WWE. I had my WWE tryout. Tommy Dreamer was the one who got it for me. When I had my tryout, I did very well. The funny thing is the tryout I had, it was me, Slick, and Lewis, and we weren't working together at the time. All three of us were separate entities, doing our own thing. And there was a lot of chaotic people there, and I had heat with Jamie Janikowski from Chaotic, because back at the Salem, I think it was the Salem Knights of Columbus. I'll never forget that show. It's because I had Gino and those guys right before the contracts happened at Chaotic. And they couldn't do any of their things, so it was like their last shows before contracts became the known thing with Chaotic, where you couldn't work for anybody else. And Jamie was paying them good money not to.
Yeah, what year was that? 99, 2000 was it?
It was probably 2000, 2001, right around there.
And what was the rumored pay on that?
Oh, dude, they were making at least $250 a week.
Kind of crazy, huh?
$1,000 a month. But Jamie owned a business that was sex products, making tons of money, and they had naughty nightgowns and stuff, a women's line that they had besides the sex toys, making crap loads of money. That's what Todd got. Is one of his Todd Hansen, who is now Ivar of the Viking Raiders, worked there. That he employed some of the guys in the shipping and receiving there that would package these things and then mail them out. You know what I'm saying? So to get back to the story, Ellen Magliaro, Tony Rumble's wife, was still working the door for me at the time. And there was an oath back in the day, okay, that promoters did not show up to other promoters' shows. Mm-hmm. That was it was an written rule. It just never happened. And if it did, the promoter would call the other promoter and say, hey, listen, do you mind if I come to the show tonight? It was a respect thing. Yeah. Other boys showed up to other people's shows. That's obvious. But back in those days, there was still a thing where if you show up to my show and you're a promoter, I'm going to fear that you're going to talk to my talent, which, in all honesty, the talent still worked for each other, but they did different things. So when Jamie showed up to that show, she didn't know who Jamie was. And Jamie and two other people sat front row at the show, and I'll never forget looking through the curtain, and I'm like, oh, man, I'm screwed. She threw them out and handed them their money back. I'll never forget, she was pissed. She goes, get Jason and have him come out here right now. And she's like, do you know that guy, Randy, who's owning this Chaotic Wrestling, who's trying to get into our building over at the Good Time Emporium, he had the balls and audacity to sit front row at our show tonight, and I kicked him out and I handed him his money back. Well, I ain't gonna lie, Gino told me, and I was at the point that I didn't that type of mentality didn't add up to me, because if I had 15 guys in my locker room, 12 of them worked for the guy that was showing up. He has no reason to infiltrate and come backstage and try to steal anybody from me. He's not he's a millionaire. What idea is he going to learn from me? How to be a peasant? You know what I'm saying? So it didn't really fathom to me. And on another thing, Gino was trying to get me a contract with him.
Oh, that breaking news 25 years later?
Yes.
That's like a Heyman deal.
Yes. So Gino was trying to get me paid, man. Gino Martino was trying to get me paid. And the thing is, I was going to negotiate. If I went there and he paid me on contract, there could have been a great chance that Jamie Janikowski could have basically been the co-owner of NWA New England. And it might never have been chaotic after that. So there was a lot of thought process that was going on there. That if it ever had happened, and I remember a week or two later that Wagner called me, Luis called me, Gino called me, Anthony Rufo called me, and they're like, yeah, we can no longer work for you because we're under contract by Chaotic for the next year. And we signed a deal that said we won't work for any other local promotions, and he's paying us money not to be on other people's shows. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, back then, that was something different. No one's ever done that in the
Gino
region.
had told me, so the reason why I knew about the contract thing and I was being nice to, because Gino was already friends with Jamie. And Gino basically had let the cat out of the bag. He's like, there's a good chance that he's going to start signing indie talent around here because he's got money and he's going to make this place blow up. He goes, I'm going to try to get you a contract. And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, the contracts came to fruition. Yep.
Small world.
Yep. So there's another breaking news story 25 years later, man. You know, 25 years later. But that's the way old school went. The boys showed up to another show. Walter would tell you, if you have to pay to get to another show, that's bullshit. You just walk right in. The boys don't get charged.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I know, like, when being on the promoter side, I always, the talent you could always replace. To me,
Yep.
it always came down to the buildings.
Yep, absolutely.
Because to this day, we've had people sniff around our buildings, and I'm like, okay. And I remember one kid called one of my buildings. The building called me. It's all great. I said, oh, yeah, he's a good guy. What's his number? I'll give him a call back. And I called the kid. And I had to educate him on how thing is done. He was a new kid, right? I don't think he was trying to be malicious. He was just young, dumb, and stupid.
Yeah.
But
Absolutely.
there's other people that I've known recently that, they've gone to rob buildings and like, oh, I got back to it. You know how they did it. And it's like, little fuckers.
Yep. That's the wrestling world for you. That is the wrestling world for you. That'll never get old. People trying to steal buildings. But I think the one thing that some of these boys in the locker room needs to understand: where are you getting? You may steal the building, but what are you gonna do? Magically wiggle your nose to get a ring, sound, and posters made, and realize what it really takes to put on a show?
Yeah, I mean, and this is a true scenario. The young kids now don't realize all the work that goes to get a building and maintain a building, between setting up, promoting it, and maintaining it. And stuff like that happens. And they're like, well, I'm just going to go and work for that guy. Like, wait a minute. This guy just took over the building, screwed up something that we had, and now you can go and work for them, but I can't guarantee, you're going to have that spot of what you have now.
Yeah.
Because it's not, and the young kids don't get it. They're like, well, we just want to work. But there's something called, it's a loyalty and respect, and there's a right way to do business. Now, I have no problem getting out business for an event, a fundraiser. If you beat me on the business side, fantastic. Let me learn what you did and how I lost it. I'll learn from it. But if you're underhanding and being screwy, I don't like that. I don't like shitty people in the business.
Okay, so I'm not going to mention anybody's name, but there's a promoter in this state that he legit the reason why he has these paid shows at certain yearly events that occur here during the summertime
Yeah.
is because he went in because he had a friend that owned one of the, let's just say, the food carts that goes to all these events.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he was good friends with said food cart owner, and the food cart owner was basically in the business. Okay? So he told the food cart guy that if you can get me a meeting with said guy who's in charge of all these things, my ESPN ticker. So he said, I will guarantee that I'll book you for all these shows, and I'll give you a gratuity payment from every one of the shows.
Mm-hmm.
And let me tell you, one of these places that he runs, there's 10 shows just in 1 week.
Yep. That's exactly who I was thinking.
Okay? So that person went in, and when I tell you lowballed just to get these,
Yeah.
because he's a lowball promoter that gets away with just, like, we'll tell you, well, this is what I'm paying you, that's what you get. And that's how said promoter has all these shows. Is because he went in and he, like, not for nothing, he backdoored this person, and the person that he backdoored was renting his ring
Ooh.
all the time. For all his shows.
Yeah.
So when this happened, that person who lost the shows, he thought, oh, since I'm going to take the shows, that person's still going to need my ring to run his shows. Person found out by the said person who ran the places that, hey, listen, next year I'm going with somebody new. And he already knew, and he went out and bought a brand new ring.
Yeah.
So now the said person, listen, great, I guy did bunches of things for me, but to me that was like, I wouldn't undermine it just to say all I need to do to run this show is to get X amount of money, and try to tell people I'm not making money. Well, that's your problem for going in and say the shows were $2,200 a day. He cut that basically in half.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can definitely, to me, like, there's just certain things that shouldn't be done in this business, and that's just not right, but the business we're in, it's dog-eat-dog world.
Well, the difference is now there's not the veteran. They call a veteran now like 5 or 7 years, if that, right? Which is funny, right? Even 3, because you don't have guys out there 10, 12, 15, 20 years in anymore.
Yep.
So guys can't learn the art of booking and the business side of it because there's no one to learn. So yeah, no, it's different.
Yep. I mean, I do miss it. Like I said, if there's the right opportunity and I'm not coaching or doing anything, I just started getting myself back in shape about a week or so ago. I'm probably 2-3 months away from accepting, if I was to accept the booking. I mean, right now I coach basketball up to mid-February. Then starting in second week of April, I'm basically coaching baseball up until the middle of June. But usually I have certain weekends where my son's not playing, so there's certain opportunities. And then the second week of August, I'm back in football camp because I'm a football coach. Plus, I'm the vice president of the flag football league that my son plays in. So, like, it's just like promoting wrestling. I'm out getting sponsors for the shirts and uniforms, so you don't have to, money doesn't have to come out of the league, the league fee and making schedules and yeah, it's so a lot of my said time that used to be wrestling time is family time more now, and I have no regrets about that, because I like I said on last week's podcast, I missed a lot of my daughter growing up, her first 9 to 10 years, where watching her softball games was on a phone that my wife would show me, you know what I mean, while I was off in Canada making money. And it's not to say that I regret some of the things I did, but I should have smartened up 5 years before I didn't smarten up, if that makes any sense. Yep. You know what I mean? I should have smartened up, and I still had this weird goal. I still have this weird thing that, I'm in my 40s. I can still make a WWE run. And if it isn't as a worker, maybe I can get a job backstage, because they see I got good talent. You know what I mean? I should have realistically stopped right around being a full-time worker, so to speak, and not filling out my calendar every weekend. I should have probably stopped between the ages of 36 and 38, and not went till I was 47 years old, 48 years old, thinking that something was going to come along. I should have put myself more into being my family and understanding. I understand more now today as a 54-year-old person that, every second, every minute, every hour, every day that God gives us the grace of waking up and doing whatnot, it's not guaranteed. You know what I mean? I could be talking to you right now, and then tonight I could have a different call, that I'm getting called up to heaven to be with my mother, my father, my grandmother, and a lot of people that I miss. You know what I mean? There's no guarantee in life, and I think that's probably one of the things that I didn't realize. You think you're gonna live forever, you know what I'm saying? And nowadays, at the age we're at, we got more years behind us than we have ahead of us, and But like I said, I do have the itch. The most thing that I miss about being in wrestling is being around the boys, telling the stories, giving the kayfabe shake hand, and peeking through the curtain and watching a match. I miss the young dudes coming up and talking and saying, "What could I have done better? Did you watch my match? And yeah, that's more or less that's what I miss." I don't miss every Friday and Saturday going, "Oh man, I gotta, work. I have to tell them I'm not coming in today. I'll be late on Monday because I'm coming home on a 17-hour drive and won't pull up until 4 o'clock in the morning, Monday morning." And, don't get me wrong, that stuff was all great. All great. It's not saying that if I had things to change, I would change them, but if I had a few things to kind of do over, there's certain aspects of my life where I would have, probably thought twice about, money over memory. And understanding that no matter how much money I have, the DeLorean isn't available for rent to go back and hop in it with Doc and, and I'm Marty, and he gets to bring me back to whatever day that I can recapture with my family.
One of the things as a trainer, I always tell the guys, one of our jobs is to do exactly what you said right there, is to make sure that they don't make the errors that we made or went the long road to make it a little bit easier. They don't realize that. A lot of them would still rather do it the tough way because it's the way that they want to do it.
Yep.
Dan, any questions on the chat?
Shia Shabo wants to know where his YouTube champion mystification, whatever he wants to call it, is.
I'll address some of that in a minute when we're wrapping up. Mr. Shabo and his missing.
Is that
YouTube.
Shady Shay?
No, no.
Okay.
There's it's not. Yes, it's not David Cash's nephew. This is a young talent who just came back. He trained with Bob at EPW 17 years ago.
Oh man!
And Shay Shabo won the YouTube championship and lost it literally at the event last Saturday night at the Showcase Wrestling Arena. So he's putting help wanted signs all throughout the social media, complaining and crying that he can't find his title.
He thinks announcer Frank took it.
So,
but what Don Vega said last week, I would be very interested when you guys do your mock show, if it falls into something into a category on a weekend where I was doing nothing, I would be honored.
Yeah, look at it, March 14th in Franklin.
March 14th. I don't think I'll be doing anything on March 14th other than maybe getting myself ready to. If you guys would like me, you can get in touch with me, and I would.
If you want to put that down, Jay, I am handing over the reins to Cena on the 9th.
Wow. Oh wow.
But I am sure I'll pass on that Jay Rumble. I mean, we can try to put this out there right now. Jay Rumble wants to put the first entry into the Gauntlet for the Gold on March 14th for March anniversary.
You
That's
can
huge.
put me there. You can put me there.
Dan?
Yeah.
I don't have much pull anymore. You have a little bit more with the missing link over here, but.
And Dan, if you got something going on in March, I'd be happy to come down. Man, when you told me the other day and reached out to me, it's just high school basketball right now. It's that time. And when you had said, I'll put you in there with TJ Richter, you just brought memories back to my life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So just to be able to be in the locker room with TJ, with Vert, sit there on a chair and talk some old school memories with them, like that all in itself makes my day.
Yeah, we had that a couple of shows ago in Franklin. Who do we had? We had Jason Blade. We had Osiris.
Ho.
Who else was there? It was two or three other. We had Candido, and then you had Vega. You had myself. Like, you don't get guys, who's been in the business 20, almost 30 years anymore.
Yep. That's the truth,
so,
man.
Yeah, it was a treat. Just like you could see the guys light up when they have the conversation, because I haven't seen you literally in 20 years or 15 years. So.
Yep.
But yeah, put that down. I'm sure Dan will have some pull with Cena and the Puerto Rican missing crew.
I'm penciling that in for March 14th. I'll put a Sharpie on it once I hear back.
All right, that is perfect. Jay, anything you want to plug? Any social media you want to plug? Or?
Nah, I'm just. Listen, if people want to go out there and they want to watch my matches, you just look Jason Jason Rumble Rumble. Back in the day, I wasn't so humble, but today I'm being humble. If you just want to go and give me some love on YouTube and watch my matches, maybe you might learn a thing or two. If you're listening out there, you're a young wrestler in this business. The lost art of finding a veteran and sitting down next to him in the locker room and picking his brain and being a sponge and just listening and paying your dues is some of the best advice that I possibly could give you. Understanding less is more. Understanding that a wrestler match is not a movie scene from that you have to script out everything. There is realism in realism, if that makes any sense. It's been an honor and a privilege being able to come on and shoot the breeze with you two guys. And it's too bad Vega wasn't here tonight. Over the past 2 weeks to reminisce about some old times. Like Walter used to say, the wheel goes around, and this wheel is going around, and hopefully by the graces of God on March 14th, I will be walking the aisle of Showcase Pro Wrestling for the first time in many years, and putting my name into the.
Hey, actually, Jay, I got a question for you.
Yep.
Do you remember when we crowned the Gauntlet for the Gold first heavyweight championship? There was 4 guys. Well, there's 5 including myself, right? It was yourself, Nicholas Knight.
Okay.
Who are the other 2 guys?
Wow.
This is in Attleboro, probably in 2009 or 2010.
I believe Nicholas Knight won this.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken. Man. I would. Bo Douglas was always with me no matter when I travel, but for some reason I don't feel that it was Bo that was in there with us.
I want to say one of the guys was Brandon Webb.
Yes, Brandon Webb. Yes, definitely.
But I can't remember the other guy because I think I had you and Nicholas Knight together, and I think it was Brandon and fill in the blank, and I can't remember who that other person was.
Wow. Could it have been? Oh, what was his name there that used to always be with Brandon Webb, the skinny kid with the...
Eric Dillon?
Yes!
I can't remember.
I'm thinking it could have been Eric Dillon.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Because he was always top guy for you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was us 4. Yes, I'm pretty sure Eric Dillon was in there with Webb and myself, Nate, and yourself.
Yeah.
And like I said, Nick Knight, some of the best matches I ever had was with Kid Narcissistic.
Yeah, we'll have some of those stories coming up because Nicholas Knight, we're doing a Hall of Fame the night before on the 13th.
Yeah.
And he is one of the inductees we're doing for the first Hall of Fame.
Wow. It's an honor and privilege to have been in the ring with them. Like I said, some of my favorite matches with Nick. He's one of the people that when I went into the ring and he wanted to talk, and I go, dude, I don't really talk. We're gonna go out there. We're gonna work. And I remember him being kind of nervous, and then when we came in the back, he's like, wow, that was freaking awesome. Because I think when you would say we're just gonna work and go out there, people thought that people were like, oh, he's gonna shoot on me.
Yeah.
Which wasn't the case. I was trained differently, and I wanted my matches to look different. When everybody else is going out there, doing all this theatrical stuff that they had to talk over, and if it doesn't go right, they don't know where to go. Another thing that stuck with me with Al Snow was that a wrestling match can't be, what was that, a map quest. Can't be map quest. You have to be able to take out your road map and if one road is closed, you need to know how to get back to another.
I like it. That's the parting words of wisdom right there from Jay Rumble. Work on the fly, be a worker.
Absolutely.
Jay, it was a pleasure. We will talk to you soon. You're always welcome either in this studio, on the podcast, or anytime at a showcase event or the training center. Dan, please put that in for Mr. Cena.
Yep.
But man, it's really scary that 25 years have gone by.
Oh man,
yeah, I'm sure
definitely.
Mr. Cena would love the talent of Jay Rumble.
All right, let's get quick plugs coming up on the 9th of January, which is next Friday. Danny, that is the show that I'm handing over the reins to John Cena Sr. in the Puerto Rican Kill Crew. I'm going to leave a little teaser. 2007, New Year's Eve is when Showcase Pro Wrestling was formed. Almost to the day, I'm handing over the keys to the kingdom. So next week on the podcast, I'll tell that story, how it was formed, the original name that Showcase Pro Wrestling was going to go by, and the people who were involved in it.
Wow.
So with that being said, all social media, SP Wrestling, ShowcaseProWrestling.com for any events and any tickets. On behalf of myself, the missing link, Don Vega, who's not here, Dan Badonti, and Jason Rumble, the Boston Bad Boy, we do thank you, and we'll see you next week.
Absolute.